Hello, friends. It's time to talk about something that I'm right about, something that I am right about, and that almost everyone else is wrong about. And people say to me sometimes, not not without reason, they say, "Sumo, Yoshi, you have a problem with arrogance." And you know what? That's probably true. But you also that can be a disadvantage, but it can also be an advantage, right? Because you have to be somewhat arrogant because sometimes the masses are wrong. Sometimes the prevailing opinion is wrong. Sometimes people get trapped in a if no one is arrogant, then no one can call out something. Everyone's just like, well, I guess if 51% of the population is doing it, I guess I should join. And now it's 52%. And then it's 53 because no one wants to be arrogant. They think the group must know best. Then it's 60%. And then suddenly, like everybody, it's just a consensus based on nothing. It was based on just other people thought it. And so, um, the Lord in his wisdom gives some of us arrogance, which can be a downfall, to correct such problems. Just so that there's some people on earth who can say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And one of the things I'm right about now is that most people are idolaters and don't know it. Or maybe they do know it and are just in denial. Or third option, which I think, judging from the responses, may be the most correct, is that they are simply incapable of parsing that difference. They either for intellectual deficiency, which may be, or probably more emotional deficiency in a lot of people, um, or what have you. I'm not sure why, but but I'm gathering that most people cannot parse the differences in what I'm saying, because this yesterday, I'm recording this a day after solo. Just I hope to record something with Cavi also and tag it onto this episode, but just to get my thoughts out while they're fresh about this. I recorded yesterday some videos of me taking an icon of Jesus feeding the 5,000, an Orthodox icon, and stepping on it and putting my toes in the image of Jesus's face. And I realized that for a lot of people that can seem scandalous. That's the point. Because a lot of you people, and I don't know if it's you specifically, listener, a lot of people out there are really kind of insane on this topic, and it needed to be addressed. And that's why I've stopped. I could continue to content, but this isn't a content farming thing. This isn't a reaction farming thing. It wasn't for that purpose. If it was, I would just keep doing it, right? But I've made my point. I don't need to do it anymore. Um, and so I'm done. I don't have to go on. I don't have to deal with it. But the context of this arose when Jordan B. Peterson recently did an interview, and he was wearing a suit jacket, very nice, very tailored, very sharp, looked great. And it was custom made, and the pattern on that jacket was a various Eastern Orthodox iconography scenes. Jesus healing somebody, Jesus being baptized, all these different scenes on this jacket, and it looked great. And I noticed a couple of threads of people, mostly Ortho Bros, who were deriding this as some kind of like heretical act. And I said, "What is it looks great, and it's like getting isn't the point of the artwork to be evangelistic and to go forth and to like be in the world and to spread the message and the meanings of the gospel, right?" And they were like, "No, basically, this is what no. These are like our culture." Suddenly they become aggrieved Hispanics who don't like people wearing sombreros. They go, "This is our culture, and it's not a costume." One of them said that. Two of them said that actually. He's wearing our culture as a costume. One, this guy saying this was an American white man. Your culture is not Middle Eastern gypsy orthodoxy, right? It's not. And I don't use. I mean, I do use gypsy as a bit of a slur, but because a lot of them are. If you've ever been to Moldova, you know what I'm talking about. But that's not your culture. You converted like 5 minutes ago. Your culture is white American in the suburbs. But so he's not. It's not your culture still. Two, um, there's no. They were and everyone was like, "Hey, you shouldn't like." And Jonathan Peugeot, who I'm sure does not agree with my videos that I made, but who I nonetheless am a big fan of. He's an icon carver, and he had said um, in a comment there. He's a famous, Orthodox guy online. He said, "Hey guys, don't worry about the JBP's thing is fine. As an icon carver myself, don't worry about this suit. It's fine. You guys are being weird." And I remarked upon this, and Unwoke Duffy, who you may or may not know, he's a fairly big account. He said Jonathan Peugeot would not agree with it. And I said he literally did agree with it. And then he moved the goalpost and was like, "Well, we can't. There are things in the church which says the solemn tradition of the church is that there are prescriptions against things you can do with icons. You can't sit on them. You can't, this and that." And I was, sort of probing it why. And the answer I got, and I knew some people thought this, but I always thought it was a fringe. I really thought it was a fringe thing, a fringe belief in the Orthodox Catholic world. And I kind of thought when Protestants used it, it was a straw man attack against them. Turns out that's not true, because he said, I don't know him specifically, but one of the commenters in there, it was a big jumble. Thousands of people were adding me. He said, "Hey, it's like this is the symbol points to the thing. These icons are windows into heaven, and you cannot separate from the image it depicts." And I responded, I think, just how is that different than idolatry if you think that the image should somehow, if you think it's completely connected and inseparable from the thing it depicts or is trying to depict. And he's like, if it's got a picture of our Lord on it, then first of all, you don't have any idea if that's a picture of you don't know what he looked like. No one does. For this reason, it doesn't tell you his features. It doesn't give you a picture to prevent you from doing ridiculous stuff like this and worshiping pieces of wood. Right? That's why he doesn't describe his Jesus's features. Okay? Doesn't tell you his skin tone. He could have been black. He could have been white. He could have been any shade in between. I don't know his hair color. I don't know his eye color. Neither do you. We don't know how tall he was. We don't know how fat he was. I mean, he's probably pretty thin because he fasted a lot, but you know what I'm saying. Okay? So they don't give you that so you don't do stuff like this, because he knew how much you would do this even if he didn't say anything. Even if he didn't tell you things. So, I said this, and my point was, this actually, God is not intrinsically connected to this piece of wood with paint on it. And I love, people are calling me an iconoclast. I love icons, actually. I have like 7, 8 in my house. I don't know. I keep them around my house. The one that I stepped on with Jesus feeding the 5,000, I keep in the kitchen at the table, at the dinner table, as a reminder that ultimately our food comes from God. I have, when I go out in the mornings, I have above the door when I exit into the chaos of the world, I have the image of Jesus walking on the water, right? Because he's overcoming the chaos of the world. I use them all the time, but they are tools. They are tools for you. They serve us. We don't serve them. The Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. You've got it exactly backwards. And if you're like all if you get all huffy because a man wore a jacket with your images going out there to display them to the world as like an evangelistic practice, then you have got it completely upside down. And so I said, well, let's just see. I said this to myself, let's see how serious they are about this. So I made a little video, it was about a minute and a half of me. I said, I held up an icon, that icon I told you about of Jesus feed the 5,000. I said, look, I love icons. I said this in the video. I have many myself. They're tools for contemplation, for meditation, for, as they always love to trot out, teaching people that can't read about the stories of the Bible. My children look at them, they're great. But they're still just pieces of wood with paint on them. God is not inside of it somehow. He is not intrinsically connected to it. Just because a guy in probably just a minimum wage laborer in somewhere in Eastern Europe took a print and like, I don't know the process, but they sort of, it's not a hand painted one. It's a mass reproductive thing on a piece of wood, doesn't make it now untouchable. That's insane. That's insane behavior. That's an insane proposition. That because a guy in Moldova took a screen print of an icon and put it and used a transfer method to transfer it onto a piece of wood and sold it to me for $30 plus shipping from Moldova, which is very far away and it costs a lot to ship. It is somehow now an untouched. It's the Ark of the Covenant. That's ridiculous. And so I stepped on it and I said, look, here's the point. See, the whole point is you've got it backwards. I am more holy than the icon, and so are you, listener. I'm made in the image of God, not the icon. Or if it is, I'm way more so. Do you understand? And so me standing on the icon is exactly correct, because the more holy thing is above the less holy thing. Right? It's the icon doesn't go to heaven. The icon isn't a co-heir with Christ. The icon is nothing. The icon is lifeless wood. I love, again, great tool. It's a great tool, but it is a tool. And if you confuse it for something more than a tool, for like contemplation, meditation, a reminder as you go about your day, like, oh yeah, look at that. I should think about that. If you forget that, and you're like, oh no, this is something I have to bow down to, and you know what? I don't even mind if you kiss them or whatever. That's fine. If you feel moved, but you have to, it's your intention. It's the way that you do it. Your bodily actions, actually, it's the intent behind them that matters, and we all know this. This is why if you accidentally in a car swerve in the road and hit somebody and kill them, we don't get charged people for murder, because we understand that the same action, driving a car purposefully or not purposefully into a person, makes all the difference. I got into this argument years ago with a fringe Protestant guy, and because I was doing yoga, and he was like, "You can't, those motions are like those bows and stuff. You're worshiping Shiva or whatever." And I said, "No, I'm not, because I'm not doing it for that purpose." And he said, "You can't separate." Same argument. And I said, if I stretch my back, if I get out of the car and there's a mountain in the distance, and I bend over to touch my toes because my back hurts, am I bowing to the mountain? No, it's the intention. The movement is the same. The physical movement is the same, but it's the intention behind it that makes it what it is. So same thing. Yes, I grant you, if I was like mad at God and was like, I know what I'll do. I will take this crucifix and throw it on the ground and kick it, I guess, and like curse at it. That would be coming from a bad place. And that would be bad, but not because of the action, because of why I was doing it. Is that so confusing for everyone? It seemed to be lost on people that this, everyone understands that. Is shooting someone bad? Well, what if they're let's take something no one can disagree with. What if they're Nazis in the middle of breaking into a house to rape Anne Frank? Is it wrong to shoot them? I don't think so. I think it is not wrong to shoot Nazis to stop them from raping Anne Frank. Now, does that mean it's the same action? You point a gun at a person, you pull the trigger. The intent behind it makes it what it is, right? And so my intent behind it is to show people, stop putting yourself in subservience to pieces of wood. And they're like, oh, we don't do that. We don't. You do. Your actions prove that you do, because you all think that just this happening makes people are like, you're possessed by a demon. You're going to hell. You need to be killed. Several people said you need to be killed. A few people said, let's kill him, which I don't mind. I've been on the internet a long time. I'm a veteran of death threats. I know that they never come to nothing because all you people are cowardly. You have no internal anything. And this is why this stuff comes up. People that are actually self-assured and self-centered don't make random death threats at people because they're not insane, right? And so I said, if this is making you feel like you're like, people were like saying like, it made me sick to my stomach to see this. A, I don't believe you most of the case. I think you're being dramatic for effect online. But B, if it did, then you need to re-examine your relationship to images, maybe. Because that shouldn't happen. Again, you forget, like, you're more holy than your icons. Is Christ in you, or is he in the icon? Right? That's who's in the mystical body of Christ. You or the icon. And everyone's like, oh, first of all, they assume I'm Protestant. And you know what? I just give up all labels at this point because everyone's insane. But they were like, oh, I bet you wouldn't do this with the Bible. So I made another video and stepped on the Bible. Because again, where the Bible matters is if you put it in your head and your heart and you live by it. And you like, I use the Bible to guide my decisions every day because I've read it enough to like go through and think, I think this would apply here. Or that would apply there. That's where it counts. Just having it on paper is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Now, would I do that if it was the last Bible in the world? If this was the movie, The Book of Eli, and I was the blind guy tasked with no, because it would be important to propagate. But that is not the scenario. They are mass-produced items. There are literally billions of them. Think about that. There's 8 billion people on the planet, allegedly. How many of those people have a Bible? Probably at least half. A lot of those people have more than one. Billions of Bibles, right? They do. If one goes away, it doesn't matter. It's not a thing. It doesn't hurt anyone's ability to read it, which is what matters, right? Which is what matters. And people were like, hey, well, would you do that? You wouldn't. How would you feel if I came in there, if someone came in your house and stepped on a picture of your mother? So many of those. Would you step on a picture of your grandmother? First of all, my mother's not an insane lady. My mother grew up with real problems, like actual problems that people that complain about, the people get all fussy about pieces of wood, never had. Her mother's various boyfriends and husbands would occasionally hold guns to her head or to her mother's head. And one time, one of them put her new puppy in a bag and threw it against the wall and killed it in front of her eyes. So she did not grow up very sentimental, I can tell you that. And she would not. There's none of this. She would totally understand. She'd be like, that's just an immaterial. It doesn't matter. Correct. Now, if it was the only picture I had of my mother, or if it was some special picture of a special event, then that has some value as a remembrance tool. And I wouldn't want to destroy that, of course. But if I had literally billions of the same copy, and I ascribed to them the same level of sanctity as I would like one copy of one specific, that would be insane. Do you understand? Is that making sense? That would be actual insanity to do that. That would be me. I don't know what that would be. I don't understand that question at all. Of course I would step on a picture of my mother. It doesn't that wouldn't matter, right? It's like even if you even asking that question, like in normal things I would not even think to do that because I would never think like, oh, that would be good or bad. It's just a picture on the thing. It serves a purpose. It's like, oh, remember that happy time. There's my mom. I love her. I should call her or whatever. Like that's what the purpose of the photograph is. It's not to like. I don't even know what you people think it is the purpose of these things. Uh, and you, and you know what? And there's so many of the same tired arguments. People are like, "Oh, the Meijis in Japan, they made the. Have you not seen the movie Silence? Have you not seen the movie Silence? And they made the Christians step on icons, and you're doing it for free." First of all, I've known about that since I was like literally 7 years old because my dad would tell me all the stories of all of the Christian martyrs and heroes of the faith in the world from a young age. Literally, like I remember growing up with this story. Right? None of you grew up with that story. I understand this story very well. But you've given me a new twist on it. I gotta admit, you guys have made me think like, oh, maybe the Japanese were right. Because what if it went like this? What if it went like this? What if there were people converting to Christianity in Japan, and they went to the Japanese ruler and they said, "Hey, we got a new religion coming up." It's like, "Yeah, I know, I heard about it. It looks pretty interesting. Christianity, right?" It's like, "Yeah, it is. It's interesting. What, you don't like it? Well, it's not that. It's what is it? What's the matter? Well, they think God is in wood. What? You know how we have like images of like Buddha and stuff? Like, yeah. They seem to think that like Jesus is like actually in the wood. And they get really mad if you like don't kiss the wood that they painted Jesus on. And you go, really? That's kind of strange. I thought we moved past based idolatry centuries ago. Like, yeah, I know. It's just I don't know. It's a lie. It's like, oh well, I guess that's a bit weird, but I don't really. But you know what? Also, if you don't kiss they want to like kill you. They like start talking about killing you, like lots of them, if you don't treat their pieces of wood correctly. And the Japanese emperor said, "That's insane. We can't we, we can't have people like that in our country. That's great. They're insane. What did they do? They're killing people over pieces of wood. Yeah, they're killing people over pieces. So maybe they said, hey, we don't. What if it went down like this? What if the motivation was, hey, okay, the ones that are insane enough to want to kill people for thinking it's pieces of wood, they'll think their God is actually in the wood, and if they step on it, like he'll be mad at them. So we'll kill those. But the ones that are like reasonable and are not genocidal over over wooden pictures, they can stay. I mean, I don't really think that's how it happened, but I could see that after today because like I was, you know, I was sitting there every time you interact at scale with right wing people and traditionalist people, you understand very quickly that everyone on the left is right and that they are insane and that we are, I have always considered myself somewhat of a conservative person and still do, but uh, they can't be trusted. They're absolutely unhinged. At least it's the same mentality as the leftist mobs, which they all preach against. They're all this wokeism stuff. Same thing. It's you have your own sacred cow, which is apparently this piece of wood. That if someone does to you, feel that they should be ostracized from society, canceled, and killed. Okay, at least the left's thing is like an actual human being most of the time, right? It may be a human being doing things I don't agree with, like I don't know, um, mutilating their genitals to try and become the other sex. or gender or whatever. But at least it's a human being, something that matters, right? At least, now I don't even think George Floyd was real. I think he was an actor. But at least getting mad about a guy dying makes more, or being killed, makes more sense. That's at least reasonable. You guys are getting as unhinged over a piece of wood. Do you understand? Like, who is actually more concerned about the image of God? The people mad, upset about a human being, or those upset about a piece of wood? Right? Think about that. So, again, it's just, I'm really sort of astounded. And so many people, you explain this to people and they cannot seem to parse it. They cannot seem to grasp what I think is a very simple um, argument, which is that no, actually, human people, particularly believers in Christ, are more holy and are more filled with God than any book with paper on it, any piece of wood with paint, any statue, any relic, anything like that, any crucifix that you and me are more holy than those things. And to flip that upside down and to think that somehow you have to be subservient to these things, that I know people, I'm not going to say it's idolatry because I know everyone would be like, well, no, because of my very technical definition of idolatry, which I made up based on my interpretation of the Nicene Council and is reinforced by many of the YouTube videos I watch. It's not idolatry because of XYZ and the transitive property. Okay, fine. It's unhealthy. Can we just say that? It's unhealthy. You guys are unhinged. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem because you freak out and want to kill people over pieces of wood. And you don't, your entire religion is thrown like this. One of the guys, one of the guys that was the biggest critic of me for doing this, I looked at his timeline and there were like 7 or 8 posts of him like ragging on girls for being fat and ugly. Like, okay, you know, you're worried about this image on wood. What about the image of God in that person? Right? And that is the point. That's the point. And that's why I can't really get behind Eastern Orthodoxy as long as they have that mentality, because it's insane. It's insane. And I know that what's happening is that icons are like your big cultural thing of like makes you different. And so same with Catholics in America. In Europe, they don't care as much. But in America, the thing that distinguishes Catholics as different from Protestants is like, oh, we're really this devotion to Mary. So we got to lean into that 110%. And to the point that it becomes a little absurd. And it's the same thing happening with the icon people. They're like, oh, well, we have to, it becomes this, stop it. Stop all of your weirdness and maybe go step on your own icon. Just to get over, God won't be mad at you because your intention is not to be disrespectful to him. Your intention is to break your unhealthy relationship with images so that you can have a healthy relationship with them. Right? That's the point of this. If you're a Protestant and you have the same sort of feelings about the Bible, go step on a Bible. You're more holy than the Bible. You are. You are. That doesn't mean the Bible's bad. Doesn't mean I don't like it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't read it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't guide your life. But the Bible isn't a co-heir with Christ. You are. Okay? The Bible isn't a child of God. You are. And if you get that confused and you start venerating the Bible as like something that you have to like, then it is good to break that in yourself and step on it or light it on fire even. I think a good practice for people would be every Easter to reverentially burn the Bible. Just as a reminder. Like, hey, this is a God-breathed book, but every breath I breathe is also God-breathed. And I am alive. This stuff is I am incarnating the word every day. I'm when I live it. And my breath breathing in and out is the breath of God in a more real and more tangible way than the book with the pages on it. I think that you should consider that. And I know everyone will be several priests that they block me. They are wrong. They are all wrong. And I know that is arrogant, but some people have to be arrogant in order to be voices of reason when the masses go insane. Right? So that's all. And I hope there's more to this episode than that. But that was my thoughts on the icon stepping episode. If you also have a problem, but if you don't, it's fine, right? You don't have to do. It's not. You don't do it just to do it or to make people upset. You do it to break an unhealthy relationship that you may or may not have. If you have a healthy relationship with icons, and only you can know that, if you're honest with yourself, then that's fine. Hey, go for it. And, it's the same thing with the flag. People brought up the flag. You wouldn't do that with the flag? Yes, I would. I do not pledge allegiance to the flag. I don't. That's dumb. That's actually a crazy person move to pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth. And people say, oh, no, you're pledging to the country. No, you're not. It says specifically in the pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. Pledging allegiance to a piece of cloth is ridiculous. And thinking that it's sacrosanct is, again, ridiculous. Because the people that do that, same thing, they'll pledge allegiance to the flag, they'll fold it in a triangle, they'll cover their heart, and then they will send their sons off to die for no reason. Every time. So, who loves America more? Right? Same thing. Idolatry is bad because it allows you to have a cope for your actual non-devotion. It allows you to think you care about the Bible you haven't read, and to think you care about the stories of Jesus depicted in icons that you haven't really meditated on, and to think you care about the country that you would actually sell out your children for in a second. That's why it's bad, right? And so don't do it. Don't do it. And if you have to break it with a act of stepping on something or tarnishing, do it, because you're the thing that matters, right? And other people are the thing that matters, not all this stuff. God bless. Till next time.